Chapter 16, verse 18 of Parshas Shoftim. We start with the Rashis, and this is on the eve of Rosh Chodesh Elul, the first day of Rosh Chodesh Elul, which is actually the last day of the month of Av. Shoftim v'shotrim titei lecha b'chol sharecha. You have to appoint judges and officers in all your gates. Asher Hashem Elokecha nosei lecha l'shvatecha. That Hashem your God gives to you to be your judges. Or Asher Hashem Elokecha nosei lecha l'shvatecha. Hashem gives to you for your tribes. And they shall judge the people with righteousness. Let's see what Rashi says. Shoftim are dayanim. The word shoftim means judges. Haposkim et hadin, who pass judgment. The shotrim are the officers. Harodin ha'am, they enforce it. They impose their authority over the people. Achar mitzvasam, following the order of the judges. Excuse me. B'makal u'v'ritzua. I don't know what just happened. With a stick and a strap, actually kabel alav as din hashofet, until he accepts upon himself the verdict of the judge. So basically, the shoftim are the judges, and the shotrim are the officers who enforce the judgment. B'chol sharecha, b'chol ir v'ir, in every city. Every city is responsible to set up a series of judges. So, Lishvatecha, for your tribe, Musav al titein lecha. Meaning to say, it goes back to the verse that says, you shall appoint. Shoftim v'shotrim titein lecha lishvatecha. Judges and officers shall you appoint for your tribes, b'chol sharecha, in all your cities that God gives to you. This teaches us, shemoshivin dayanin l'kol sheva sheva kol ir v'ir. Every tribe has to have their own judge, and their own, and in each and every city has to have their own judges. So basically, each tribe must have their own judges, and each city has to have their own judges. V'shaftu es ha'am, and they shall appoint the people. Maneh dayanin mumchim v'tzadikim l'shpot tzedek. You have to appoint expert judges to judge righteously. Hello, Jeff.
That's fine.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. It's been forever.
Yeah.
We used to be study partners years, and this is your son?
Yeah. Yossi, that is
Nice to meet you. I knew
Mr.
you
Word.
were first. Sorry,
Yeah, beautiful.
we've come to the right place.
Yeah. Okay, so we're up to the verse chapter. We're up to chapter 16, verse 19. Chapter 16, verse 19. You shall not pervert judgment. Do not show favoritism. You know, I take a bribe if you're a judge. Bribes blind the eyes of the wise. Makes the words of the righteous crooked. Rashi says, shall not pervert judgment. Kamashma'o. This is like it sounds. What does that mean? It means do not make an unfair ruling. Sakir panim, do not show favoritism. Af b'shas hatanot, even at the time of the claims of their parties, meaning to say, even though it's not the actual moment of the verdict. A judge shouldn't be soft for one party and harsh to the other. Echad omeid ve'echad yoshev. One will sit and one will stand. When one of the parties sees that the judge is favoring the other one, mistatmin tanosav. He will mute his arguments, will be intimidated. So therefore, the judge has to be impartial. Bosikach shochad, do not take a bribe. Afil ishpot tzedek, even to judge righteously. Ki shochad yaver, being to say you can't take a bribe, even if you say, "What's the big deal? I'm going to rule this way anyway. It's not changing the way I'm going to rule. So why can't I just take the money? How's it hurting? How's it? But I'll make better use of the money than he would. Why can't you say that? We don't let you say that. Yeah, shochad yaver, because the bribes will blind. Rashi says, Misha kibel shochad mimenu. Once he has accepted a bribe, it's impossible that the judge will not tilt his heart to pour over the case and find aspects in his favor. It's impossible for him not to favor it a little bit, even though he thinks he's not. It perverts, makes crooked the words of the righteous. Rashi says, Dvarim hamsudakim mishpatei emes, words that can be justified, judgments of truth. Okay. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice you shall pursue. Uman techyev yarashes earth, so that you live and inherit the earth. Asher Hashem okecha nosein lach. So Hashem, your God, will give to you. What does it mean? Rashi says, justice, justice shall you pursue. Halach achar bezdin yafa. You have to go and find a good court to adjudicate the matter. Find a good court to adjudicate the matter. So that you will live and take possession. This in and of itself is enough of a reason to be able to live on the land if you have appointed good judges. Just want to see for 1 second here in this beautiful book by Rav Steinberg, and let me see what he says about this verse. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. He says, he says, follow Rebbe to base Sharim, meaning to say, go after Chachamim to study, after Rabbi Eliezer to Lud, after Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai to Vor Chayil, after Rabbi Yeshua to Pekian, after Rabbi Gamliel to Yavna, after Rabbi Akiva to Bnei Brak, after Rabbi Matya to Romi, after Rabbi Chanina ben Teradion with Sichni, after Rabbi Yossi with Tzipori, after Rabbi Yehuda ben Maseret to Netzivin, after Rabbi Yeshua to Goa, after Rabbi Ubei Sharam, follow after the Chachamim to the Lishkas Agazis. So you have to go after the best Rebbe. Okay. Okay, so now we go up to the next verse. Do not plant for yourself a tree for idol worship. Yeah, Shera is a tree for idol worship. Don't plant such a tree. Ko 8, do not plant a tree for idol worship. Any tree, 8 samizbach Hashem okecha, next to the altar of Hashem your God, asher ta'aselach, that you shall make for yourself. Rashi says, to make him culpable. Mishas netiyasa, from the time of its planting. Va'afilu avda, and even if he did not worship it, over below saseh al netiyasa. Meaning, say, even if you didn't worship this Asherah tree, once you plant it, you're going to be in violation of this idolatry. Do not plant it next to the altar. Azar onote ilan lavona bias bara bias. Not allowed to plant a tree or build any wooden structure on the Temple Mount. Someone to this say that for this reason, you can't put a tree next to the ark in a synagogue. For most people inside. Most people don't accept that, but some say that that's,
Plant tree inside.
no, even flowers or plants. Some would say that there's a prohibition based upon this to have live vegetation in the synagogue because it's connected to this Asherah Koetz. You see, if we look here, I'm sure it probably has it in here. You see right here. Let's see if it has it. Here.
Some potted plants. No.
Some say, yeah, because it's like because our synagogues are many temples. So that's why some want to say it's prohibited. If that's the case, the others counter that you can't have any wood at all in the synagogue. So, okay, so anyway, it's a whole discussion. You know how to set up for yourself a pillar, which Hashem your God hates. What's it referring to? Rashi says, Matzeves even achas a pillar of a single stone to bring an offering upon it, even for the sake of heaven. And Matzeva is a single stone pillar, which Hashem your God hates. Mizbach havanim, an altar of stones, and Mizbach hadama, an altar of earth. Tzivo asot, he commanded to make. But this God hates. Tichol kaitel Canaanim, because this was a law for the Canaanites. Even though it was beloved by God in the days of the patriarchs, now God hates it. So why does God hate these altars? Even though he loved it when Abraham made it, hello Greg, he loved it when Abraham made it. But since the idolaters started doing it, now God hates it. That's what it's saying. Since the idolaters started doing it, now God hates it. So that's it. Once somebody does something, they pervert it, so to speak. So now they ruined it for everyone. It was beautiful at the time of the patriarchs, but then the idolaters ruined it for everyone. You should not let to slaughter to God a lamb or a sheep, an ox or a lamb, Asher Yavomum, which has a blemish, called avara, anything bad, because it's an abomination. She says, so this is not what you think. Rashi tells us that this is not referring to slaughtering anything with a blemish. It refers to slaughtering an animal through improper intent. The intent to slaughter it beyond the proper time or beyond the proper place, which is called the prohibition of pigol. So it doesn't refer to slaughtering an animal with a physical blemish. Why not? Must be that there's other verses that say that. So here we're talking about causing the offering to become pigol. That's the prohibition. If you find in your amongst you, in one of your gates that God gives to you, a man or a woman, a man or a woman that will do something bad in the eyes of God and violate his covenant. She says that means referring to the sin of idolatry. They worship idols. They go worship other gods. And they go and they bow down to the sun or the moon or any of the hosts of heaven that I did not command. Rashi says to worship them. And you heard about the matter. V'darashe tev, and you expounded it well. V'nei amet nachon hadavar, behold, it was true. Ne'asta toivazut b'Yisrael, this abomination was done. Rashi says, nothing. Wait, nachon, it was true. Mekuvana idut, it is true. The matter is true. Hold on. Okay. Verse 5. And you take out this man, you take out this man who has done this terrible thing, or this woman. The man or the woman who scaltom bavanim and you stone them to death. Rashi says that what does it mean, El Sharecha? It doesn't mean to your gates. I think I might have translated it that way. Hamartargim El Sharecha with Ra based enough. If you translate, he said, the one who translates Sharecha as to the gates of your court to as making a mistake. So, because we learned El Sharecha Zer Shar Sha'avadbo. Oenu El Shar Shanidamo. Does this refer to the city in which he worshipped idols, or perhaps it's the city which he was judged? So it says Sharecha Lamata and it says Sharecha Lamala. So just as Sharecha above means your cities, so too below it refers to your cities. So it doesn't refer to your courts, but to your cities. You execute this person on the basis of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses. You cannot put him to death on the basis of 1 witness. Rashi says that Rashi's going to say that exactly right now. He's going to ask exactly your question, Jeffrey. Beautiful. This is based upon the Gemara. The Talmud asked this question. If the Torah says that the witness testimony can be valid by 2, why does it say 3?
Right.
So it's to tell us that 2 is compared to 3, just like if there are 2, it's 1 group. So 2 with 3, we view it as 1 unit. And to tell us that the witness testimony does not become impeached, become what's called the technical term of Edom Zomerman, until all the 3 witnesses are impeached.
But there's the commandment of do not kill. So why are there so much discussion of you should put him to death in the parsha?
Excellent. So the commandment is do not murder. We're not commanded not to kill. Obviously, we're not rushed to kill, but sometimes it's required if a person is wicked for justice. Yeah, self-defense.
So just not doing it blatantly as
You're not allowed to do murder. You're not allowed to do murder, and you're also not allowed to make up the law. But the courts have the concept of a person who is so egregious. That's what the Torah is telling us. There are certain people who are so despicable that they need to be removed from the earth. But this is all in theory. In practice, rabbis never instituted this, most likely. I mean, if you look at the Talmud, you'll see that they were very, very reluctant, and according to some opinions, they never did it. So the point is, it's theoretical in that sense, but the prohibition is not do not kill. The prohibition is do not murder. Certainly a soldier who's fighting in the battle is not in violation of the Torah if he's defending his people. He's going out to war to self-defense. So now we go to the next verse. Yada edim tiebo barishono amito. The hand of the witnesses should be upon him at first to put him to death. Yad kol am b'achrona, and all the people afterwards will be artara mikrbecha. And you must uproot the wickedness from your midst. So the first one to put him to death has to be the witnesses. Now we have very important law coming up. Ki poem imcha davar mishpat. If there will be a matter which will be hidden from you, bein dam wadam, bein din wadin, as it relates to blood or judgment, bein nego and nega, or an affliction, divrei rivos b'sharecha, words of dispute, v'kamta v'alita makom asher yivchar Hashem l'kecha bo. Shall rise up and go to the place that Hashem your God will select. So why are you going to the place if you have a matter of judgment that's hidden? How can you have a matter of judgment that's hidden? Didn't Hashem give us all the laws in the Torah? So what kind of laws is it referring to? What kind of laws is it referring to?
It could be a difficult application, you have to think about it.
Could be a new application of the law. We don't know. We don't know. There's a new law that develops that we hadn't thought of. Or there could be something new that creates a new situation. Like, for example, can you use an AI on Shabbos? Can you use your iPhone? Can you speak into the air and that causes all the lights to go on? Is that a prohibition of turning the lights on Shabbos? So this is new situations arise, or new matters, new application of the law. So all of a sudden, even though the whole Torah was given to Moses at Sinai, all of a sudden we have new laws that now created, new laws, new applications. We don't know what the halacha is. So it's something to do. And what do you do under those circumstances? You have to go to the place that God chose you, and that's where you're going to find the ruling. So in every generation, there's going to be new applications of the rulings. And who's going to decide those answers? The rabbinic courts. The rabbinic courts. It used to be that there was one universally accepted court for everyone. What was that called? The Sanhedrin, or the Beit Din Hagadol, or so the Sanhedrin or the Beit Din Hagadol, or the Anshe Knesset Hagadolah. These are some terms for the Supreme Court of the Jewish people. Okay, so what does it state? It states as follows: Ki poemimcha. The Rashi says, Ko afla'ah mashon havdalah uprisha. Any form of havdalah means separation. Davar nivdal mechuseh. The thing is separated, concealed from you. Bein dam ladam, between blood and blood. Bein dam tamei ladam tahor, between the blood which is impure and the blood which is pure. Bein din ladin, between judgment and judgment. Rashi says, Bein din zakai, bedin chayav, between judgment of guilt and innocence. Bein nego and nega, between affliction and affliction. Bein nega tamei, and nega tahor, between an affliction of the impure and affliction of the pure. Rashi says, Divrei rivot. Let's say the sages of the town will be divided about the matter. Shilchokin, zem tamei v'zet tahar. Let's say there's a new blood. You hadn't seen this color before. You forgot the law. Come to Valita. You go to the main court. Rashi says you're going to the Beit HaMikdash, which was the highest place. You go to the Kohanim Alaviyim. Why are you going to the Kohanim? Jeff, why are you going to the Kohanim?
That's what it always says.
I thought what's the Kohen's job?
No circumstances, you can judge sometimes.
It says you go to the Kohanim, you go to the Kohanim, the Leviim, and the judges that will be in those days. And you shall expound, and they'll tell you the words of justice. So in those days, Jeff, Darrell is also a Kohen. We have when Yossi comes back, will be 3 Kohanim here. The Kohanim were also the judges. Rabbi Yosef's the Kohen. The Kohanim served as teachers and as judges. Their primary role was not to be serving in the temple, because they ended up doing that only 1 or 2 days a year. And some of the tasks they only got to do once in their whole life. So you can't say that that's their job, because to be sitting around the whole year just to do one day of service. That doesn't make sense.
It's 1 week, right? They did 2 days.
But they were stationed there for a week,
Oh, I see.
but each family only got 1 day within that week. So they only got 1 day. And they did that. There were 24 mishmarot. So let's say they got that twice a year. So they worked 2 days a year. You can't say. And also, not only that, the Truma and the Meiser was gifted by the Bnei Israel to them, and also the Kohanim gift. Now the Kohen was not supposed to go around and solicit on the threshing floor to get those gifts. The person had to have some flexibility to give to who he wants. But more likely than not, if there was a Kohen who studied Torah with him, who was the family Kohen, he'd be the one to be supported with those gifts. So the Kohen was a teacher, was a educator, and was a judge. He was the one who was the repository of the law. So that's why it says you go to the Kohanim who are from the tribe of Levi, not to the Levites, to the Kohanim who are from the tribe of Levi, and to the
But
judge.
how would you avoid the problem of shochat if it was somebody you already know?
Well, no, that's in general. That's in general. But if it's somebody you already know, then we already say the judge has to recuse himself. So if they go to a different place, they go to a different place. You go to the Kohanim, Levim, the judges that will be in those days, Vidarashta, and they'll look into the matter and they'll tell you. And by the way, there's another reason why you need to go to them. Sometimes you don't know who's right. The Kohen has to decide. Two litigants who are suing each other. The Kohen has to hear all the evidence, weigh the matter, and decide who he thinks is right based upon the law. So these are all situations. The judge in those days, and this is a very important principle, what does it say? HaKohanim HaLeviyim, HaKohanim sheyatzu mishev Levi, ve'al hashofet asher yeh biyamim hahem, afilu einu kishar shoftim, sheyu fanav. Even if the judge is not like all the other judges who are before you. This judge, you say, oh, I remember the rabbis back when Rabbi Einemer, blessed memory, when he was here. Wow, then we had good rabbis. That's the rabbi I would go and listen to. Rabbi Einemer was a tremendous Torah scholar, but we don't have him anymore. You have the rabbis in each generation. So I'm saying that you have to listen to the rabbis or the judges that you have. You can't say, well, this guy wasn't as good as the one who was judging 100 years ago. He's not as good as the Chafetz Chaim. Hello, Michael. Good afternoon. So that's the basic point. All you have, you can't say, oh, if we only had Louis Brandeis around today, we wouldn't have any problems. If we only had Louis Brandeis, everything will be solved. But we don't. We have who we have, and that's the point.
That's true. That's what we have.
We have who we have. That's what we mean, and that's what it says. And now we get to a very controversial line. It says, verse 11, Al Pia Torah Asher Yerucha, on the Torah that they teach you, Val Mishpat Asher Yemurcha Ta'aseh, the judgment that they tell you to do. Not allowed to depart from anything they tell you, not to the right or to the left. And this will be what we'll end with. Rashi says, even if the judge tells you about the right that it's left and the left that it's right, and how much more so if he says that the right is right and the left is left, you have to listen to the judge. Even if the judge tells you that the right is left and the left is right, your responsibility is to listen. Even if the judge tells you what you know for a fact is wrong, once they give the ruling, you have to listen. It's very controversial, but that's straight right there. Yes, Jerry, and then we have a mincha now because time. But yes, Jerry.